They know it's coming. The Pentagon knows. Congress knows. Even the Department of Homeland Security has run the simulations. But they won't say a word, because if they did, if they told Americans how close we are to losing everything, the panic would start overnight. I'm not talking about war or inflation or another pandemic. This threat doesn't explode in the sky or spread through the air. It travels silently, invisible, instant. It's called an EMP, an electromagnetic pulse. And one strike, just one, could send this country back to the dark ages in less than 60 seconds. Every circuit, every chip, every modern system we depend on, gone. No power, no transport, no hospitals, no food supply chain, nothing. It sounds like a movie plot, doesn't it? But the government has known about this for decades. They've held classified hearings, issued quiet warnings, and then buried them. Because they know there's no way to stop it. And they know if people understood what a single high-altitude EMP could do, the country would erupt in chaos before the lights even went out. The Congressional EMP Commission, an official government body, admitted it. Up to 90% of Americans could perish within a year after a nationwide grid collapse, not from the blast, but from what comes next: famine, disease, violence. I used to think that was an exaggeration, until January 6th, 2025. That's the night I saw what the end of modern life would actually look like. Not from a missile, but from something far smaller. A winter storm that rolled into Erie, Pennsylvania, and turned my family's world upside down. No power, no heat, no food, no help. 3 days that showed me just how thin the line is between comfort and chaos. And while the rest of the world shrugged it off as just another storm, I knew better. Because what I saw that night wasn't just a blackout. It was a warning. A preview of what will happen nationwide when the real thing hits. That's why I'm sharing this with you now. Because I found something that changes everything. Something that proves you don't have to be one of the helpless ones when the lights go out for good. It started with a man I barely knew, and a simple conversation that would alter my life forever. It was the night of January 6th, 2025, when the storm rolled into Erie, Pennsylvania. By late afternoon, the sky turned a strange, bruised gray. The air felt heavy, sharp, like the world was holding its breath. By evening, the snow came fast, smothering everything in white. Wind slammed against the windows like something was trying to break in. Ice hung from the trees, weighing down the branches until they snapped like gunshots in the dark. Inside, we tried to act like it was just another winter night. The kids sat on the couch with their tablets. My wife scrolled the weather app. I kept checking the outage map, pretending I wasn't worried. Then the lights flickered once, twice, and went out for good. The furnace shut off. The fridge stopped. The hum of modern life, gone. The only sounds left were the wind outside and the breathing of my family. At first, we weren't too concerned. Blackouts happen. We figured it'd be a few hours, maybe overnight. But the hours dragged on. The house got colder, fast. By midnight, we could see our breath in the living room. We clung to our phones, the last lifeline. At first, we checked outage reports, then weather updates, then texts from friends. But the messages slowed, then stopped. The network collapsed under the load, and by the time I saw 3% left on my screen, I knew what was coming. The last phone died before sunrise, and then, real silence. We weren't just in the dark, we were cut off. No heat, no information, no way to call for help. By the second morning, the temperature inside the house was unbearable. My little girl tugged on my sleeve, her voice small and trembling.
Daddy, can we have soup tonight?
I didn't know what to say. We had nothing warm left, just a few crackers, a little melted snow, and the sound of the wind outside. And I'll never forget the look on her face when she realized I couldn't fix it. That's when I decided to try the car. I bundled up, waded through snow up to my knees, and brushed the ice off the windshield. If I could just get it started, maybe we could drive to my brother's place a few towns over. He had a wood stove, supplies, everything we didn't. I slid into the seat, turned the key, nothing. The cold had killed the battery. That was the moment I felt truly helpless. Back inside, my wife tried to keep the kids calm. We stacked every blanket we could find, boiled snow on a camp stove just to have something warm to hold. By nightfall, the kids had stopped talking. The silence was heavier than the cold. Then came the third night. The cold was biting, bitter, the kind that seeps into your bones. The house was dark, except for a few dying candles. And that's when I saw it. Through the frosted window far down the street, a faint glow. It wasn't a street light. Those had been dead for days. It wasn't headlights either. It was steady, warm, light, coming from one house. I wiped the window, squinted through the snow. Someone had power, heat, light, and I knew exactly whose house it was. Mr. Carter, a quiet man I'd seen around the neighborhood for years. We'd nodded at each other dozens of times, but never talked. People said he was a retired Army engineer, kept to himself, always working on something in his garage. At first I thought maybe I was imagining it, that my frozen, exhausted mind was playing tricks on me. But that light didn't fade. It held steady, like a beacon in the dark. I didn't even think twice. I threw on my coat, grabbed a flashlight that barely worked, and trudged through the snow towards that glow. By the time I reached his porch, my hands were numb, and my breath felt like ice in my chest. He opened the door before I could even knock. Warm air spilled out, real, dry heat that felt almost unreal after days of freezing. He looked at me for a second, calm and unbothered, then gave a small nod. "You're freezing," he said. "Come in." Inside, it was like stepping into another world. The fire crackled in a wood stove. The lights were dim but steady. The air smelled faintly of soup and coffee. For a second, I just stood there taking it all in. The warmth, the light, the calm. Then I thought of my wife and kids huddled under blankets back home. "Please," I said quietly. "My family? Can I bring them here? Just for tonight?" He didn't hesitate. "Of course. Go get them." I ran back through the storm, gathered my wife and kids, wrapped them in blankets, and led them through the snow toward that glowing house at the end of the street. When we stepped inside, my daughter's eyes lit up at the sight of the fire. He handed her a bowl of steaming soup. She looked up at me, smiling, and for the first time in days, I felt my chest unclench. Once the kids were settled, and my wife was warming her hands near the stove, I turned to him. Everywhere I looked, there was order. Tools, barrels, shelves of canned food, lanterns lined up neatly on a shelf. That's when I asked the question that had been burning in my mind since the moment I saw that light through the window. "How did you do this?" I asked. "How did you stay warm, fed, and safe when everyone else was freezing?" He met my eyes steady and calm. "I've been ready for more than just storms," he said. Then he invited me to sit down. What I saw, the way he had heat, light, water, and food while the rest of us were freezing, rationing crackers, and praying for the grid to come back, changed everything. That night, as the storm raged outside and the fire crackled between us, Mr. Carter began to talk. Not in panic, not in theory, but with the calm certainty of someone who'd seen this coming for years. He told me the truth no one else would. The real danger wasn't a winter blackout. It was something far bigger. Something that could take down the entire country in seconds. He called it an EMP. He explained it in plain terms. Imagine lightning hits your house and fries your electronics. Now picture that same surge stretching across the entire country. Phones, cars, power plants, hospitals, all fried in an instant. Then he leaned closer. And Washington knows it. The Congressional EMP Commission admitted it. Up to 90% of Americans could die within a year after a nationwide EMP. Not from the blast, but from what comes after. Famine, disease, violence. I froze. I thought back to how fragile things already felt during that storm. If just 3 nights without power could send people into a panic, what would a year look like? I must have looked pale because he gave a small nod, as if to say, yeah, now you're starting to get it. Then he gestured around his home. This is why I live the way I do. Not because I'm paranoid, but because I know how thin the line is between order and chaos. He pointed to the wood stove in the corner. That runs on nothing but the wood I split every summer. Doesn't matter if the grid's down or the gas pumps are empty. This keeps my house warm when everyone else is freezing. Next, he tapped a row of blue water barrels lined up against the wall. Every drop filled in advance. City pipes go dry fast when the pumps stop. Most folks don't realize it, but the second the power goes, so do their taps. You can't survive 3 days without water. Then he opened a cupboard. Inside were rows of jars and cans. Soups, vegetables, meat, all preserved the old-fashioned way. Not freeze-dried astronaut packs. Real food, stored the way people used to do it before supermarkets and apps. Storm or EMP? Doesn't matter. We eat. On a shelf sat several metal lanterns. Their light was soft, steady. Lanterns. Shielded so they'll survive a pulse. You don't need a garage full of batteries if you know how to do it right. Finally, he leaned back in his chair and spread his hands. It's not complicated. Not expensive. It's not about some bunker buried under concrete. It's a system. One built on resilience, not dependency. The kind of knowledge our grandparents lived by. Before we forgot, I felt a knot tighten in my chest. Because he was right. I'd seen how fast life unraveled in just 3 nights. And sitting in his warm living room, I realized this man wasn't surviving by luck. He was surviving by design. Then he walked over to a wooden cabinet in the corner. He pulled out a thick, leather-bound binder. Its edges were worn, the cover faded from years of use. This, he said, placing it gently on the table, is how you protect your family from what's coming. Not with gadgets, not with wishful thinking, not by waiting on the government. With systems like these, he rested his hand on the binder, almost like he was weighing something. And most of what you need to know, it's not written down anymore. That's why almost no one's ready. Then he looked at me for a long second. Truth is, he said, I never planned to share this. These pages were just for me. Notes, sketches, reminders, the systems I built, the tricks I tested. I wrote it all down so I wouldn't forget, and so I could protect my family. He exhaled, long and heavy. But after that storm, after watching people freeze in their homes, wait in gas lines, fight over scraps in dark grocery stores, I realized keeping this to myself made me no better than the people in Washington, the ones who know what's coming and say nothing. He tapped the binder. So I started organizing everything, took all the messy notes and turned them into a step-by-step guide. No military jargon, no overpriced gear, just practical, proven methods anyone can follow. Then he looked me straight in the eye. And if you want it, I'll show you how. I leaned forward, still not quite believing what I was hearing. You mean all of it? Everything you did to keep your heat on, your food safe, your water clean, even if an EMP hits? He nodded. Everything. This isn't theory. It's not what ifs. It's exactly what kept me safe while the rest of the neighborhood was falling apart. And it's what will keep me safe again. Storm, cyber attack, EMP. Doesn't matter. The systems are the same. They don't fail. Then he slid the binder across the table. The edges were frayed. The pages packed with hand-drawn diagrams, checklists, instructions. I call it my survival blueprint, he said, because that's exactly what it is. A way to build real resilience into your life so you're not at the mercy of fragile systems. A way to make sure your family doesn't freeze, doesn't starve, doesn't get left behind when everything else collapses. He pushed it closer. You asked how I stayed safe. This is the answer. I opened the binder and flipped through the pages. Each one laid out in simple, clear steps, no fluff, no theory. And for the first time since the storm, I felt something I hadn't felt in days. Hope. Because what I was looking at wasn't just about survival. It was a roadmap to security, to independence, to peace of mind. I took Carter's binder home that night and read every page, diagrams, notes, little details scribbled in the margins. It wasn't complicated. It was clear, direct, and real. The next morning, I started testing it. Not theory, not prepper fantasy. I wanted to know if it actually worked. First, the heating setup. Carter's method didn't need generators or pricey gear. Just simple tools, used the right way. Within hours, I had steady heat without touching the thermostat. Next, water. His filtration and storage method was so simple, I wondered why no one else talked about it. I filled containers that would last weeks. Clean, safe, and ready. Then, food. His preservation system worked flawlessly. I stored real food, vegetables, soups, meat, in airtight jars that didn't need freezing or refrigeration. Weeks later, everything was fresh and tasted better than half the store-bought junk. Every step worked. No waste, no guesswork, just quiet confidence. My wife watched me from the kitchen, half smiling. "You think this will really help?" she asked. I didn't answer. She could see it. The wood stove burning steady, the pantry stocked, the water barrels lined up. For the first time since that storm, we both felt calm. That night I slept soundly. No fear, no helplessness, just peace. A few days later, as I sat there flipping through Carter's notes, I realized how much I'd learned in such a short time. Inside those pages were lessons no one teaches anymore. How to stay warm without gas or electricity using simple, renewable materials you can find anywhere. How to secure a lasting water supply and purify it without chemicals or filters that run out. How to build a reliable food reserve with real food that lasts for years, not overpriced freeze-dried packs. How to generate light and cook full meals without relying on fragile modern systems. How to shield essential devices from an EMP in minutes using supplies you already own. How to create true security. Practical steps that make your home a place no looter wants to test. How to regain control, so your family never has to depend on failing systems again. Every line in that binder was another piece of freedom. Freedom from fear, from dependency, from waiting for someone else to fix the problem. And that's when it hit me. If this system could work for me, a regular guy with no military training and no special gear, it could work for anyone. That's when I made my decision. To take everything Carter taught me, every note, every diagram, every method, and make it available to families who refuse to be caught off guard again. Because this wasn't just about survival, it was about taking control, about never again wondering what to do if the lights went out and didn't come back on, about freedom. So I took every page, every sketch, every detail Carter had written and rebuilt it from the ground up, simplifying the language, organizing the steps, removing the guesswork, until his private notes became something any family could follow. A complete, step-by-step plan for surviving blackouts, grid failures, or even a nationwide EMP strike. That's how the Blackout Protocol survival system was born. This isn't a prepper kit. It's not a pile of gadgets or expensive gear. It's a clear, proven system that shows you exactly how to protect your home, your family, and your future. Using simple, low-cost tools you already have or can get anywhere. Inside, you'll discover the same methods Carter used to stay warm, fed, and safe while everyone else was in chaos. It's practical, it's doable, and it works. Here's what makes the Blackout Protocol survival system unlike anything else you've ever seen. Step-by-step simplicity. Everything is laid out in plain English. No military jargon, no guesswork, just clear actions that work for anyone, anywhere. Speed of setup. Most people can secure their heat, food, and water systems in a single weekend without buying a single expensive gadget. Tested in real life, every method has been proven through real blackouts and extreme weather, not lab experiments or theory. Low-cost implementation, built for regular families on normal budgets, not for doomsday preppers with thousands to spend. Adaptable for any home, apartment, townhouse, or rural property, every system scales to your space and resources. Confidence under pressure. When you've built these systems, panic disappears. You know exactly what to do the moment the lights go out. Lifetime peace of mind. Once you set it up, it's there for good. Protecting you year after year, blackout after blackout. Each section walks you through exact steps, materials, and methods. So there's no confusion, no wasted time, and no, maybe it'll work. You'll know precisely what to do, in what order, to make sure your family never faces the cold, the dark, or the hunger I once felt. This isn't about fear anymore. It's about control. Control over your home. Control over your safety. Control over your future. And once you see how easy it is to implement these systems, you'll wonder why no one ever taught you this before. When I finished compiling everything Carter taught me into a complete system, I knew I couldn't stop there. Because even though the core guide covered everything, heat, food, water, light, security, I wanted to make sure there were no weak spots. So I added several powerful bonus resources, each one designed to cover a critical area most families overlook. The exact areas that fail first when disaster strikes. Here's what you'll get when you secure the Blackout Protocol Survival System today. Bonus number 1, the 72-hour Blackout Survival Guide. When the lights go out, the first 72 hours are chaos. This quick action manual shows you exactly what to do from the moment the power dies, step by step. How to secure heat, food, and water before panic sets in. The first 5 moves that keep your family ahead of the crowd. What not to do that most people get fatally wrong. It's like having an emergency commander whispering in your ear when every minute counts. Bonus number 2, the EMP-proof device shielding handbook. If a pulse ever hits, almost every modern device becomes scrap metal. This short guide teaches you how to shield essential electronics in minutes, using simple materials you already own. Protect radios, flashlights, solar chargers, even medical gear. Avoid the one mistake that leaves most Faraday cages useless. Stay connected while the rest of the world goes silent. Bonus number 3. Food security secrets. Forget overpriced survival buckets. This guide reveals the old world preservation tricks Carter used to stock his shelves year-round. The best foods to store that last for years. No freezer, no chemicals. How to create a rotating pantry that never runs empty. A simple plan that turns any small space into a dependable reserve. Bonus number 4, safe and silent home defense. When law enforcement disappears, the only thing between your family and danger is your home. This guide shows you how to make your home look like too much trouble. Low-cost deterrents that don't rely on electricity. How to use light, sound, and structure to your advantage. The subtle signals that make intruders walk away. Together, these bonuses make sure you're covered from every angle. Immediate response, long-term security, communication, and protection. If sold separately, each of these guides could easily retail for $39 to $49 a piece. And that's being conservative. The full Blackout Protocol Survival System itself could easily justify $197, because it's not theory. It's a proven plan that could mean the difference between panic and control. But I'm not asking you to pay anything close to that, because the truth is, I didn't create this to make money. I created it to make a difference. And the faster this information gets into the hands of families who need it, the better off we all are. That's why, for a limited time, you can get the Blackout Protocol Survival System, along with all 4 bonuses, everything you've just seen, for a one-time payment of just $39. That's less than the cost of one family dinner out or one tank of gas, for knowledge that could literally save your family's lives. Now I know what you might be thinking. Does this really work? can I really count on this when everything else fails? And honestly, I'd be asking the same thing. That's why I'm taking away every ounce of risk. When you order the Blackout Protocol Survival System today, you're completely protected by my 60-day, no questions asked, 100% money-back guarantee. Here's what that means. Download the entire system right now, read it. Try the methods for yourself. If you don't feel more confident, more capable, more in control of your family's safety, then send me a single email and you'll get a fast, full refund. No questions, no red tape, no hassle, and you'll still keep everything. The entire system, all the bonuses, every page and checklist. Because I'm not here to take your money. I'm here to make sure your family is ready, but here's what you need to understand. The next crisis won't send a warning. It won't announce itself on the evening news. It'll start quietly, just like that winter night in Erie. And within hours, everything we take for granted will be gone. The power, the heat, the food, the safety. And by the time most people realize what's happening, it'll be too late to prepare. That's why this isn't something to think about later, because later might not come. When the next blackout or grid failure hits, the families who took action now will stay calm, warm, and fed, while everyone else is left in the dark, cold, and chaos. So ask yourself, what's peace of mind worth to you? What's it worth to know that no matter what happens, your home stays safe, your family stays secure, and you never have to rely on anyone else to survive? Because today, you can make that decision for less than the cost of a single dinner out. Click the button below now and get the Blackout Protocol Survival System for just $39. Before it's taken offline or the next crisis makes preparation impossible. Take control while you still can. Because when the lights go out, the only thing worse than being unprepared is wishing you'd done something when you had the chance. Remember that first night. The silence after the lights went out, the cold creeping in, the helpless feeling of knowing there was nothing you could do. Now, picture the next time the power goes down, only this time your home stays warm, your shelves are full, your family is calm, because you already have a plan. Outside neighbors panic. They're in the dark, desperate for help. But inside your home, it's different. There's light, there's warmth, there's peace, because you made the choice before it happened. That's the power of the Blackout Protocol Survival System. It's not just a guide. It's freedom. Freedom from fear. Freedom from dependency. Freedom from waiting for someone else to save you. And right now, that freedom is one click away. You can close this page, hope the lights stay on, and take your chances. Or you can take control, once and for all. Click the button below and get the Blackout Protocol Survival System right now, while you still can. Because when the next blackout hits, you won't be one of the helpless ones staring into the dark. You'll be the one who's ready. The one with light, warmth, and calm when the world around you freezes. Make that choice today. Protect what matters most. Click the button below and let's get started.